The rain hammered against the cracked pavement as Nora Bennett sprinted down Pike Street, her canvas bag bouncing against her hip. Seattle's autumn storms showed no mercy, and neither did her schedule. She had exactly 12 minutes to catch the bus to her evening shift at the coffee shop, which came right after her afternoon shift at the bookstore, which followed her morning gig walking dogs in Capitol Hill. Her phone buzzed with another overdue bill notification. Nora didn't even look. She knew what it said. The same thing they all said lately. Payment required. Final notice. Service interruption imminent. She'd become an expert at ignoring financial doom. The streetlights flickered on as dusk settled over the city, their amber glow reflecting off puddles that seemed determined to soak through her already damp sneakers. Nora cursed under her breath, dodging a particularly deep pool of water near the bus stop. That's when she saw it. A leather wallet lay half-submerged in the rain just beside a green bench outside the Pacific Place shopping center. Black, sleek, obviously expensive. The kind of wallet that probably cost more than her rent. Nora glanced around. Dozens of people rushed past, umbrellas tilted against the wind, everyone focused on getting somewhere dry. Nobody seemed to be searching for anything. Nobody looked back. She hesitated for 3 full seconds before bending down to pick it up. The leather was soft, barely touched by the water thanks to the bench's overhang. Heavy, too. That weight meant something. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, telling herself she just needed to find identification, just needed to figure out who it belonged to. That was the plan. That was the only plan. The first thing she saw made her breath catch. Cash. Lots of it. Crisp $100 bills organized neatly in the main compartment. Nora didn't count them, couldn't count them, because her hands had started shaking and her vision blurred slightly at the edges. Behind the money, she found credit cards, multiple ones. Black cards with metallic finishes that caught the streetlight. The kind of cards she'd only seen in movies. And business cards. Dozens of them. Vincent Hartley, Chief Executive Officer. Hartley Digital Solutions. The name meant nothing to her, but the address did. Medina. That exclusive waterfront community where tech millionaires lived behind gates and hedges, where homes started at $5 million and went up from there. Nora's stomach growled loudly, reminding her that breakfast had been a protein bar and lunch had been skipped entirely. She stared at the bills, maybe 50 of them, $5,000, possibly more. This man from Medina with his black credit cards probably spent this much on dinner without thinking twice. Her eviction notice flashed through her mind. 72 hours to pay 3 months of back rent or find somewhere else to live. Her landlord had stopped accepting promises and sad stories. The number haunted her. $4,200. Right here in her hands sat more than enough to solve that problem. More than enough to buy groceries, to fix her camera's broken lens, to stop the constant tightness in her chest every time she opened her mailbox. Nobody would know. The wallet had been abandoned. She found it fair and square. Rich people lost things all the time. They had insurance for this kind of situation. He probably had 5 more wallets at home. Nora closed her eyes against the rain, feeling it mix with something else on her cheeks. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, soft, but firm. Character is what you do when nobody's watching, Nora girl. It's the hard choice that makes you who you are. Her father had died 2 years ago, leaving her with nothing but debt from his medical bills and that piece of advice. She'd sold almost everything to pay those bills, everything except her camera and her integrity. With shaking hands, Nora pulled out her phone and dialed the number on the business card. A crisp, professional voice answered after 2 rings. Hartley Digital Solutions, you've reached Vincent Hartley's office. This is Monica speaking. I found a wallet, Nora blurted out, water dripping from her hair onto the phone screen. A wallet belonging to Vincent Hartley. I'd like to return it. The silence lasted long enough that Nora thought the call had dropped. You found Mr. Hartley's wallet? Monica's voice had changed, disbelief creeping into her professional tone. Yes, just now, on Pike Street near Pacific Place. And you're calling to return it? Yes, Nora repeated, wondering why this seemed so surprising. Is that unusual? You have no idea, Monica muttered, then seemed to catch herself. I mean, that's very kind of you. Mr. Hartley has been searching everywhere. Can you stay where you are? He'll come to you immediately. Nora agreed and hung up, then stood under the bus stop shelter, watching her bus arrive and depart without her. There went her coffee shop shift. There went the $43 she desperately needed. 20 minutes passed. The rain intensified. Nora's teeth began to chatter. Then a black Tesla pulled up to the curb, so quiet she almost didn't notice. The door opened, and a man stepped out into the rain. Vincent Hartley looked nothing like Nora expected. Early 30s, dressed in dark jeans and a gray sweater that probably cost more than her monthly income, but somehow he made it look casual. His hair was wet from the rain, slightly disheveled. He had the kind of face that belonged in business, magazines, sharp features softened by genuine concern in his dark eyes. Are you the one who called? His voice matched his appearance, polished but warm. Nora held out the wallet without a word, suddenly aware of how she must look. Soaked clothes clinging to her frame, her bag worn and patched, sneakers with holes that let in water with every step. Vincent took the wallet and opened it immediately, his eyes widening. He checked the cash compartment, the cards, every section. When he looked up at her again, his expression had transformed into something close to shock. It's all here, he said quietly, as if speaking to himself. Every single thing. Of course it is, Nora replied, trying to keep the edge from her voice. It's not mine. He stared at her for a long moment, really looking at her now. She watched his gaze take in her threadbare jacket, her faded jeans, her exhausted eyes. She lifted her chin, refusing to be ashamed of circumstances beyond her control. Most people, Vincent started, then stopped. He pulled out several $100 bills. Please, let me give you a reward. You deserve it. No. The word came out harder than she intended. Vincent blinked, still holding the money out between them like an offering. I just want to thank you properly, he insisted. You just did. You said thank you. Nora hugged her bag closer, ready to leave. The rain had soaked through to her skin, and she could feel a cold coming on. Another expense she couldn't afford? Wait, Vincent said as she turned away. At least let me buy you coffee. You're soaking wet. There's a cafe right across the street, 5 minutes, just to warm up. Nora hesitated. Her bus was long gone. Her shift was missed, and she was indeed freezing. More than that, something in his voice stopped her. Not pity, curiosity maybe, or the same confusion she felt about why this simple act of returning lost property seemed to fascinate him so much. Fine, she agreed, but I'm buying my own coffee. A small smile tugged at Vincent's lips. Deal. They walked across the street in silence, the rain continuing its steady assault. Inside the warm cafe, Nora ordered the cheapest item on the menu, a small drip coffee, and counted out exact change from her pocket despite Vincent's protests. He got something elaborate with foam art and led her to a corner table. They sat down, two strangers brought together by a lost wallet and a choice that Nora still didn't fully understand herself. I have to ask, Vincent said finally, wrapping his hands around his cup. Were you tempted, even for a second? Nora met his eyes directly. Yes. His eyebrows rose at her honesty. I'm 3 months behind on rent, she continued, deciding that, if they were being honest, they might as well be completely honest. I'm about to be evicted. I work 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. That money in your wallet could have solved most of my problems. Then I really don't understand. My father used to say that character is what you do when nobody's watching, that the hard choice is what makes you who you are. Nora wrapped her cold hands around her coffee cup. I could take your money, solve my immediate problems, and hate myself every single day. Or I could give it back, stay broke, and sleep at night. Turns out I really like sleeping. Vincent laughed, a genuine sound that made him look younger. That's the most honest answer I've ever heard. Honesty seems to be my default setting, even when it would be more convenient to lie. They talked for an hour, long after their coffees grew cold. Vincent asked about her work, and Nora found herself telling him about her photography dreams, about the camera she'd inherited from her father, about the 3 jobs that left no time for actual art. She didn't mention his last name, or look him up. She just talked to him like he was a regular person, because in that cafe, with rain streaming down the windows, that's exactly what he seemed to be. When they finally stood to leave, Vincent pulled out his phone. Can I have your number? I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. A proper thank you. Nora hesitated, then gave it to him, something fluttering in her chest that had nothing to do with the cold. As she walked back into the rain, heading home to her impending eviction notice and empty refrigerator, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. She had no idea that the man whose wallet she'd returned was worth $50 million. No idea that their chance meeting would turn into something neither of them expected. No idea that honesty, that simple decision in the rain, would change everything. But she would find out soon enough. 3 days after the rain-soaked encounter, Nora's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She was in the middle of her dog-walking route, managing 4 leashes and a particularly stubborn bulldog named Otis. This is Vincent. From the wallet incident. Still interested in that dinner? Nora stared at the message, surprised he'd actually followed through. Most people said things they didn't mean, especially people who looked like they lived in a different world. She typed back with one hand while Otis pulled toward a fire hydrant. Dinner sounds nice, but nowhere expensive. I mean it. His response came quickly. How about that cafe where we had coffee? They serve food, too. Nora smiled despite herself. Perfect. They met that Friday evening. Vincent arrived before her, already seated at the same corner table. He wore jeans again, a simple navy sweater, looking comfortable and approachable. Nothing about him screamed wealth, though Nora had noticed his watch last time, sleek and elegant, in a way that suggested expense. You came, he said, standing as she approached. You sound surprised. I wasn't sure if you'd change your mind. Vincent pulled out her chair, a gesture that felt natural rather than forced. I'm glad you didn't. They ordered sandwiches and coffee, and the conversation flowed easier than it had any right to. Vincent asked questions that showed he actually listened, remembered details from their first meeting. He wanted to know about her photography, about what drew her to it. My father gave me my first camera when I was 12, Nora explained, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. One of those old film cameras that forced you to think before you pressed the shutter. He said photography was about seeing the world differently, finding beauty in unexpected places. Do you still use it? Sometimes. Film is expensive, though, so mostly I use digital now, when I can afford to anyway. She paused. What about you? What do you do exactly? Your business card said consultant. Vincent's expression flickered, just for a second. I work in tech, software development mostly, digital solutions for businesses. It wasn't technically a lie. He did work in tech. He just happened to own one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the Pacific Northwest. But watching Nora across the table, seeing how she relaxed around him without the weight of his wealth between them, Vincent couldn't bring himself to tell the whole truth. Sounds complicated, Nora said. It can be, but I like solving problems, making things work better. Vincent leaned forward. Though I have to say it's less interesting than what you do, Creating art, capturing moments, that takes real talent. It takes a working camera lens, which mine currently lacks. Nora laughed, but there was frustration underneath. I had to choose between fixing it and paying rent this month. Rent won. Vincent wanted to offer money right then, wanted to solve that problem with a phone call and a credit card. But he saw the pride in her eyes, the same steel that had made her return, his wallet untouched. So instead he said, "There's a camera repair shop in Fremont. Guy named Frank runs it. He's reasonable with prices and does payment plans if you mention my name." Really? Really? He's helped me out before. Another half-truth. Frank had repaired cameras for Hartley Digital Solutions' photography team multiple times. Vincent made a mental note to call Frank later and cover whatever bill Nora accumulated without her knowing. They started meeting regularly after that. Coffee twice a week, then 3 times, then almost daily. Vincent found himself rearranging board meetings and conference calls just to spend an hour with her. His business partner, Jessica Tran, noticed immediately. "You're different," Jessica said one morning, cornering him in his office at Hartley Digital Solutions headquarters. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Elliott Bay, the Seattle skyline, stretching out behind her. "Happier? Who is she?" Vincent didn't bother denying it. Jessica had known him since college, had been there through his startup days when Hartley Digital Solutions was just an idea sketched on napkins. "Her name is Nora. She's a photographer. And she knows who you are." The pause told Jessica everything. "Vincent," she said slowly, settling into the chair across from his desk. "Please tell me you didn't lie to this girl." "I didn't lie. I just didn't mention certain details. Like the fact that you're worth $50 million? That your face has been on the cover of Tech Innovator magazine? That you're keynoting the Digital Innovation Conference next month?" Vincent winced. The conference. He'd been trying not to think about it. "She doesn't follow tech news. She works 3 jobs just to survive. The last thing she cares about is who's who in the startup world." "What happens when she finds out?" Jessica's voice softened. "Because she will find out, Vincent. These things always come out. I'll tell her. Soon. I just need the right moment." The right moment was the first day. Every day after that is just deeper deception. Vincent knew she was right, but every time he tried to imagine telling Nora the truth, he saw her face changing, saw the easy warmth between them cooling into something formal and uncomfortable. Or worse, he saw calculation replacing genuine affection, wondering if she'd start seeing him as a solution to her financial problems rather than just himself. "She's different, Jess," he said quietly. "She returned my wallet with $5,000 in it without taking a cent. She insisted on paying for her own coffee. She turned down my reward money. When was the last time someone saw me as just Vincent, not Vincent Hartley, the CEO?" Jessica sighed. "I get it. I do. But this will backfire. Trust me." A week later, Nora's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. She answered while editing photos on her laptop, her cramped studio apartment dark except for the screen's glow. "Is this Nora Bennett?" A professional female voice. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Rachel Kim. I'm organizing the Pacific Digital Innovation Conference next month. We're featuring emerging artists whose work explores the intersection of technology and humanity, and your portfolio came highly recommended." Nora sat up straight. "My portfolio? I don't understand." "We'd like to exhibit your photography at the conference. 20 pieces displayed throughout the venue. It's a major event with over 2,000 attendees, including tech leaders, investors, and media. The exposure alone would be invaluable. Plus, we're offering a $1,000 stipend for participating artists." Nora's mind raced. $1,000. Exposure to that many people. This could change everything. "Who recommended me?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but they spoke very highly of your work. Are you interested?" "Yes, absolutely yes." After she hung up, Nora immediately called Vincent. He answered on the second ring, and she could hear city sounds in the background. You'll never believe what just happened, she said, excitement bubbling over. I got invited to exhibit at this huge tech conference next month. 20 pieces, a stipend, everything. This could be exactly the break I need. Vincent's stomach dropped. The Digital Innovation Conference, the event where his face would be on every screen, where he was the keynote speaker, where thousands of people knew exactly who he was. That's amazing, he managed, his voice strained. I'm so happy for you. I know, right? Finally something good. Nora paused. Hey, are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine, just tired from work. Listen, can I see you tonight? There's something I want to talk to you about. They agreed to meet at their usual cafe. Vincent spent the afternoon rehearsing how to tell her the truth, how to explain why he'd let the deception continue. But when he arrived and saw her face glowing with excitement, her happiness so pure and uncomplicated, the words died in his throat. Tell me everything about the conference, he said instead, hating himself for the cowardice. The universe, however, had its own timeline. 2 days later, they were having lunch at a small bistro in Capitol Hill when a man in an expensive suit approached their table. Vincent Hartley, the man said, his voice carrying recognition and surprise. I didn't expect to see you at a place like this. Vincent's blood went cold. Nora looked up from her sandwich, curious. I think you have me confused with someone else, Vincent said quickly, his tone friendly but firm. The man frowned. No, I'm sure it's you. We met at the Tech Alliance Summit last year. I'm Gregory Walsh, remember? You gave that presentation on artificial intelligence applications in healthcare. I'm sorry, but I'm not who you think I am, Vincent insisted, his hand finding Nora's under the table, squeezing perhaps too tightly. Gregory looked genuinely confused now, his eyes moving between Vincent and Nora. But you look exactly like him. I could have sworn. Common mistake. I get it all the time. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Have a good day. Gregory walked away slowly, still glancing back with uncertainty. Nora watched him go, then turned to Vincent with questions clear on her face. That was strange, she said carefully. He seemed really sure. People see what they want to see. Vincent released her hand, unable to meet her eyes. Ready to go? They left the bistro, but something had shifted. Nora remained quiet on the walk back to her apartment, her mind clearly, working through what had just happened. At her door, she turned to face him. Vincent, is there something you're not telling me? This was it. The moment to come clean, to trust that what they had was strong enough to survive honesty. Vincent opened his mouth, the truth right thereon. His tongue, no, he said instead, the lie tasting bitter. Nothing important. Nora studied his face for a long moment before nodding slowly. Okay. I trust you. Those 3 words made everything worse. As Vincent walked away, his phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. Conference promo starts next week. Your face will be everywhere. Whatever you're going to do, do it now. Vincent stared at the message, knowing she was right. He had maybe 2 weeks before Nora discovered everything. 2 weeks to find the courage to tell her the truth, or 2 weeks until the lie destroyed whatever they were building. He chose denial, hoping for a miracle that never comes. The morning of the Digital Innovation Conference arrived with clear skies and crisp autumn air. Nora woke before dawn, her stomach flipping with nervous excitement. She'd spent the last 3 weeks preparing her exhibition, selecting and printing her 20 best photographs. Each image told a story about humanity in the digital age. People on phones in empty parks, children playing with tablets while sunsets went unnoticed, elderly hands learning to text, young faces illuminated by screen glow in dark rooms. Her work was honest, sometimes uncomfortably so. It captured the beauty and isolation of modern life, the connection and disconnection that technology brought. She was proud of it, Vincent had been distant the past few days, claiming work stress. They'd seen each other less, his texts coming at odd hours, his smiles not quite reaching his eyes. Nora told herself it was temporary, that whatever pressure he faced at his consulting job would pass. She missed him, though. Missed the easy conversations and comfortable silences they'd built. She arrived at the Seattle Convention Center 3 hours early. The space was massive, already buzzing with setup crews and vendors. Her exhibition area was in the main hall, right near the entrance where thousands of attendees would pass. Perfect visibility. Nora spent 2 hours arranging her photographs, on the display panels, adjusting heights and spacing until everything felt right. She stepped back to admire her work just as the venue lights brightened and massive screens around the hall flickered to life. That's when she saw his face, Vincent. But not her Vincent. Not the humble consultant in casual sweaters who split sandwich bills and talked about solving small business problems. This Vincent wore an expensive tailored suit, his image 30 feet tall on screens throughout the hall. Bold letters beneath his photo read, "Keynote Speaker, Vincent Hartley, CEO and Founder, Hartley Digital Solutions." Nora's vision blurred at the edges. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and searched his name. The results flooded her screen. Articles from Forbes, TechCrunch, Business Insider, photos of Vincent at galas, accepting awards, standing with tech giants and venture capitalists. His company valuation, $53 million. His personal net worth, estimated $48 million. She scrolled through images of him at conferences, at charity events, on magazine covers. There was an entire Wikipedia page about his rise from college dropout to tech entrepreneur. He'd founded Hartley Digital Solutions at 26, revolutionizing customer service software, expanding into artificial intelligence applications. He'd been named one of the Pacific Northwest's most influential tech leaders under 40. Every article, every photo, every accomplishment drove the knife deeper. He wasn't a consultant. He was a CEO, a millionaire, someone who lived in a world so far from hers that their connection suddenly felt like a cruel joke. The man who'd let her pay for her own $3 coffee had $50 million. The man she'd worried about burdening with her financial troubles owned a company worth more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. The man she'd trusted, who'd looked her in the eyes and said there was nothing important he wasn't telling her, had built their entire relationship on a lie. Nora's hands clenched around her phone. Around them, conference attendees began filtering. In, programs in hand, excited chatter filling the space. She stood frozen beside her exhibition, her photographs suddenly feeling small and inadequate in this world of wealth and power. "Nora," Vincent's voice came from behind her. She turned slowly to find him standing 10 feet away, no longer in the casual clothes she knew but dressed in that expensive suit from the screens. He looked like a stranger. "You lied to me," she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the storm inside her chest. "I can explain." "Can you?" "Because I'm trying to understand how you forgot to mention you're a millionaire CEO. How that detail just slipped your mind during all our conversations about my money problems, my 3 jobs, my broken camera lens." Vincent took a step closer. People were starting to notice them, starting to recognize him, but he kept his focus on Nora. "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me, just me. Not my money or my company or my reputation. Just Vincent." "There is no just Vincent," Nora shot back, anger finally breaking through her shock. "That's the point. You're Vincent Hartley, the CEO. You live in a mansion in Medina. You're keynoting this conference. That's who you are, and you hid it from me like I was too stupid to handle the truth." "That's not why I did it." "Then why? Why did you let me talk about my eviction notice while you're worth $50 million? Why did you watch me count out exact change for coffee when you probably spend more than that on lunch without thinking about it?" Vincent's jaw tightened. "Because the moment people know who I am, everything changes. They see the money first, the person second. They want something from me, or they're intimidated by me, or they suddenly can't be natural around me. With you, I gotta be normal. I gotta be someone you chose to spend time with because you liked me, not because of what I could do for you. So you lied instead. You let me believe we were equals, that we understood each other. Nora's voice cracked. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Standing here in my thrift store dress next to my little photography exhibition while your face is on every screen like some kind of tech god. Everyone here probably knows who you are. They probably wonder what you're doing talking to me. I don't care what anyone thinks. Well, I do. I care that I trusted you. I care that I told you things I don't tell anyone, that I let you see parts of me I keep hidden. And the whole time you were pretending to be someone you're not. Jessica. Tran appeared at Vincent's elbow, her expression professional but urgent. Vincent, they need you backstage in 5 minutes for mic checks. He ignored her, his eyes locked on Nora. Please, give me a chance to explain properly. After my speech, we can talk somewhere private. There's nothing to talk about. Nora stepped back, putting distance between them. You know what the worst part is? I returned your wallet because my father taught me that character is what you do when nobody's watching. That honesty matters even when it's hard. Turns out you don't share that value. The words hit Vincent like a physical blow. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Nora laughed, but it held no humor. I spent weeks falling for someone who doesn't exist. That's not fair. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an exhibition to manage. She turned away, dismissing him completely. Vincent stood frozen, wanting to say more, but Jessica was pulling him toward the backstage area, whispering urgently about schedules and expectations. The next 2 hours passed in a blur. Vincent delivered his keynote speech to thunderous applause, talking about innovation and integrity and building businesses with purpose. The irony wasn't lost on him. Every word felt hollow when he could see Nora's exhibition from the stage, could see her standing beside her photographs with a smile that didn't reach her eyes as attendees praised her work. After the speech, he tried to approach her again, but she'd disappeared. Her exhibition remained, her powerful images drawing crowds, but Nora herself was gone. Vincent left the conference early, ignoring the networking opportunities and investor meetings his assistant had scheduled. He drove to Nora's apartment, but she didn't answer his knocks. He called and texted, but received no response. Days turned into a week. Nora blocked his number. She didn't respond to emails. Jessica advised him to give her space, that pushing would only make things worse. You hurt her, Jessica said bluntly during a meeting at his office. Not by having money, but by lying about it. That's going to take time to fix, if it can be fixed at all. Vincent stared out at the Seattle skyline, the city lights beginning to glow as dusk settled. I need to show her I meant what I said. That my feelings were real even if I wasn't honest about everything else. Then show her. But do it the right way, not with money or grand gestures. Show her you respect who she is and what she values. The idea came to Vincent at 3 a.m, jerking him awake with sudden clarity. He spent the next week working, in secret, making calls, pulling strings, using his connections for something that had nothing to do with profit margins or market share. 2 weeks after the conference, Nora received a letter delivered by courier. Inside was an invitation to the Seattle Museum of Modern Art's annual Emerging Artist Showcase, one of the most prestigious opportunities for unknown photographers in the region. Her name was listed as a featured artist with a full exhibition, scheduled for 3 months. The letter included a note. Your work was selected by a blind jury based solely on merit. The museum knows nothing about your connection to me. This opportunity is yours because you earned it, not because of who you... No, congratulations. You deserve this and so much more. No signature, but Nora knew who'd sent it. She also knew, after researching, that Vincent had served on the museum's board for years, but had recused himself entirely from the selection process. The curator confirmed that Nora's portfolio had been submitted anonymously and judged alongside hundreds of others without any names attached. Her anger hadn't disappeared, but it softened slightly around the edges. This wasn't Vincent trying to buy her forgiveness. This was him opening a door and letting her walk through on her own merit. 3 days later, she texted him for the first time since the conference. "We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe. Tuesday. At 7. Vincent arrived 15 minutes early, ordered 2 coffees, and sat at their usual table with his heart racing. When Nora walked in, she looked tired but determined. She sat across from him and wrapped her hands around the coffee he'd ordered for her. "Thank you for the museum opportunity," she said quietly. "That meant something. I wanted you to know that I see your talent. I always have. My money had nothing to do with how I feel about your work or about you." Nora nodded slowly. "I've had 2 weeks to think, to be angry and hurt and to figure out what actually matters here. And you lied to me. That's a fact I can't change or forget. You had dozens of chances to tell me the truth, and you chose deception every time." She met his eyes directly. "But I also understand why you did it. I've been reading about you, about how people approach you, how relationships in your world work. I get why you wanted something different." Vincent leaned forward. "I should have told you sooner, I know that. I was selfish and scared, and I hurt you because of it. If I could go back and do it differently, I would." "You can't go back. None of us can." Nora took a breath. "But maybe we can start over, honest this time. No more secrets, no more half-truths. You be the real Vincent Hartley, CEO and millionaire and all. I'll be the real Nora Bennett, struggling artist with 3 jobs and a broken camera. We see if those 2 people actually work together." Hope flickered in Vincent's chest. "You're willing to try again?" "I'm willing to see if there's something worth trying for. But Vincent, if you lie to me again, about anything, we're done. I mean that." "No more lies," he promised. "I'll tell you everything. About my company, my life, all of it. And Nora, for what it's worth. The person you got to know. The one who loved talking to you about art and life and everything else. That was the real me. The money just complicated things. Money always does." Nora smiled slightly, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in weeks. "So, Mr. Millionaire CEO, tell me something true. What made you start your company?" Vincent smiled back and began to talk, really talk, about his grandmother who'd raised him, about dropping out of college to care for her when she got sick, about building his first software program to help her navigate her medical bills. He told her about the guilt of succeeding after she died, about the loneliness of wealth, about the fear that no one would ever see past his money to who he actually was. Nora listened, asked questions, and slowly the wall between them began to crack. It wouldn't disappear overnight. Trust, once broken, took time to rebuild. But as they sat in that cafe where everything had begun, talking honestly for the first time, both of them felt something cautiously hopeful taking root. Outside, the Seattle rain started again, tapping gently against the windows. But inside, 2 people who'd found each other through a lost wallet and a moment of honesty were discovering if they could find each other again through truth. It wouldn't be easy. Their worlds were different in ways that mattered. But some connections, the rare and real ones, were worth fighting for, and this time they'd fight with honesty as their foundation.